Welcome back to Questions for the Rector. I'm Stephen Heiner, and with us, as always, is the Rector of Most Holy Trinity Seminary in Reading, Pennsylvania, His Excellency Bishop Donald Sanborn. Hello, Your Excellency.
Hello, Stephen.
So, we've actually wanted to do this episode for some time. There was a trip that was mooted to Rome with Father Desay that didn't come together, and we now have a trip that's coming next year. IHS Events is doing one with Father Trauner, and I thought it'd be as good a time as any to talk about the Eternal City, why Catholics might like to visit. I have here actually a map that His Excellency has put together himself with all the notations of churches to visit, and I think there's a corresponding index that has the relics that are in these different churches.
Well, to be more modest, I copied that out of a book. I took a picture of it and put it on my computer and printed it out. So somebody else did
Did
that,
all the work.
and then somebody else years ago gave me a list of where all of the relics are, the big relics in Rome, and so I just happened to put all that together. So I really was. It was more like you know, it was a quilt.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose just starting in the natural order, Your Excellency, Rome is a pleasant city to visit. You have this river dividing. You have I don't think our watchers and listeners will be able to see it that well, but you have the Vatican on the other side of the Tiber and Trastevere, and it's a well laid out city. It's a classical city, medieval city, Baroque city. It has all of these layers from all the different time periods that it's been around, and it's worth visiting in the natural sense, Your Excellency. It's a city worth visiting.
Well, I would disagree with you. It's not very well laid out. The
By that I mean you have discrete neighborhoods. You have different places where you have hills. For example, the Colosseum's in this place for this reason. The Vatican's there for that reason. You have the hill that's next to the Vatican.
yes, but it's pretty much a mishmash.
You have these narrow streets and
The
places
most
for sure.
important part of Rome was actually the worst part of Rome in the classical time, and that is what they call the Field of Mars.
The Campo de
That's
Fiore.
yeah, no, Campo di Marzo. That's where all of the big churches are. Not obviously the Vatican, but I would say 80% of the churches that you're going to look at are in this what was originally a swamp. There was actually a Roman god of the swamp, and they drained the swamp eventually, and it became a place of shops in ancient Rome. And so it's all cut up with little streets and very very narrow streets, and it makes you think about ancient Rome. And so the nice part was the Palatine Hill. That's where the emperors lived, and the Forum was over there, and that's where the Colosseum was. That was the
The
where the
Circus
nice people
Maximus is
lived.
over
Yeah,
there.
the Circus Maximus. And but this very important and very Catholic part of Rome is the old dirty part of Rome. So you have to understand that. We're not used to those very narrow streets,
Mm.
and the fact that they go for a little bit. It's like a maze.
And then it dead ends.
Yes, and so you need a map of Rome. You could easily get lost because everything looks the same. The buildings and all look the same. So you have to know the monuments and stuff.
Well, let's just take a brief tour through some things, Your Excellency. Obviously, the four major basilicas. We have St. Peter's, we have the Lateran, we have St. Mary Major, and we have
St. Paul outside the walls.
yes. And so when you think about those four major basilicas, I think everyone knows about St. Peter's.
Yes.
And I think some people know a little bit about the Lateran, but if you could speak about the Lateran, St. Mary Major, and St. Paul's outside the walls briefly.
Yes, Saint John Lateran is the Pope's cathedral. Everyone thinks that St. Peter's Basilica is. It is not. His cathedral, that is where his seat is, his throne, is actually in the Lateran Basilica. It was there was a Lateran palace that was given by Constantine to the Pope, and Constantine built the original Lateran church, and that was the Pope's church. And so that's why it says Mater et caput omnium ecclesiarum right on the front,
front
the
door.
mother and head of all churches, because all churches depend on the Roman Pontiff. And if you don't have the approval, if you do not have the approval of the Roman Pontiff, you're not a Catholic church. See, so that's the church of the Catholic Church, you might say. So it has a tremendous importance. The heads of St. Peter and Paul are in the main altar. Then you have on the side you have a magnificent Blessed Sacrament altar with the gilded bronze columns that came from the one of the temples, the Temple of Jupiter in Rome. It's as you face the main altar, it's on the left. You can't miss it, right? And it was fixed up a great deal by Leo the 13th. Mosaics were restored, etc. So and it has the 12 apostles on going down the aisle.
Magnificent.
Yes, beautiful statues and beautiful side altars. I remember visiting it when I was on my first trip to Rome. I thought, this is a side altar. This looks like you never
And
see.
when was your first visit to Rome, Eric?
1971.
Okay.
Yes, and I spent about 5 days in Rome, and so. And I didn't know anything really at that time, but
Well, the Lateran's surrounded by treasures. So obviously you've got St. Mary Major down the street. You have Santa Croce down the street. The Scala Santa is across the street.
Scala Santa is across the street.
And then
yes.
you have the baptistry, that famous baptistry of Constantine right behind. It's
Yes.
semi-connected.
Yes, that's where they conducted the original Easter vigils, which started at about 7 p.m. On Saturday night. And everyone stood, no pews or seats. Everyone stood while all of the baptisms were done. And because the church only baptized people outside of emergencies, only baptized people on Easter and Pentecost. So that was a lot of people to be baptized. And so they would do all of these lessons. And that's why you have these readings that you hear, these long readings on Holy Saturday, because they would read these things not only in Latin, but in Greek. Because there were people that spoke Latin and Greek. And so, and then at about 5 a.m., the Easter Mass would happen. And see, the idea of having Mass at midnight has no tradition whatsoever, because our Lord did not rise at midnight. He rose early in the morning because the Jews did not consider the day to change at midnight, but rather the day changed as the sun rose. See, so that's why it was appropriate to have it at 5 a.m.
I thought they wanted to restore the original splendor of the liturgy.
There's no history of that.
So if you would, you'd have to be there at 6 p.m. and be there till 5 a.m. if you really wanted to.
If you really wanted to restore it and stand the whole time and listen to the Greek and the Latin.
Somehow I don't think that's in the cards, Your Excellency.
No, that's tradition. But because that was, so difficult for many people, the church moved the Easter Vigil to Saturday morning. And that's why you have that kind of liturgy. So that's, yes, the baptistry is very interesting.
Very beautiful.
And
I said the Scala Santa is across the street, but people may not know what that is. Your
that is the staircase that our Lord went up to see Pilate, and it was transferred to Rome. And so commonly people will go up and say prayers on every step. It's maybe 20, 25 steps. You have to be,
it's not a short
it's not
way.
for the faint of heart, you might say. And I think you have something to kiss at the top. So yes, that's the holy, and there's an indulgence attached to that.
Now the tradition is to go up on your knees.
Yes.
And it's funny, Eric, when you go, I know that you don't have any plans to go to Jerusalem anytime soon, as much as I would like you to. But if you do go there, when you get there, you'll see there's this space between where Pilate stood, and there's just nothing there. And I know where those steps are. They're not here.
Yeah, they're
but she
wrong.
took the time to remove them, so we're very grateful.
Yes.
She also, as I alluded to, had a lot to do with Santa Croce in Jerusalem, which
You're
is
talking about St. Helena.
yes,
Yes.
just down the street from St. John Lateran as well.
That's down the street from St. John Lateran, and that's where the remnants of the Holy Cross are kept. The crown of thorns is some thorns, I think.
We have some nails there.
Yeah, nails.
The titulus.
The title above the in the three languages.
Quod scripsi scripsi.
Yes, and King Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. It's in you can see the three languages, and then the remnants of the cross, because the cross was split up a lot. That's why there's so many relics of the true cross, because it was split up a great deal. Saint Helena cut it up herself, and then it was, so there's relatively little left of it, but it's in a magnificent reliquary in Santa Croce. That's the Holy Cross of Jerusalem.
So that's one of the minor basilicas.
That's one of the
I'll
minor
bring us back to
basilicas.
St. John Lateran and down another street to St. Mary Major. Can you comment on St. Mary Major?
Yes, St. Mary Major. It is what it sounds like, and that is the principal church of Our Blessed Lady in Rome. And it's the founding of it is celebrated in August 5th, I believe it is, because on that hill, which is the Esquiline Hill, one of the 7 hills of Rome, there was a snow in August. And if you've ever been in Rome in August, you would say this is miraculous because you could not have snow in August in Rome. And it's just boiling hot. Let's put it that way. And so that's why it was called Our Lady of the Snows. It's also called Our Lady and Nieves, the snows, but it's also St. Mary Major. And it is a magnificent church that was built in the typical Roman style, of the Roman basilica style, with the columns going down. And that basilica simply means a kingly palace, or a Basilius in Greek means king. So a basilica is some sort of state or government palace, and they would build these. There were basilicas for the government. And so the Roman basilica style has a specific colonnade and then round in the back and everything.
And are the 3 doors related to a basilica as well, Your Excellency?
I don't know that. I don't know if that's the case or not. But there's a number of things in that basilica. You have the crib of Our Blessed Lord underneath the main altar. You have on the right side, you have the tomb of St. Pius V. And on the other side, you have the chapel of the Borghese chapel of the Roman, something like the chapel of the Roman people, but I can't remember the exact name.
There's an icon there of Our Lady, right?
Yes,
This is
painted by St. Luke.
Yes.
And it's one of the most beautiful chapels in all Rome. They talk about giving money to the church. I mean, they spent a fortune on that. And unfortunately, somebody very unpleasant is buried there. Yes, namely Francis.
Well, that's where he put the beach ball, with St. Mary Major.
I know, yeah, the great devotion to Our Lady. And so that, yes, it's and the ceiling is gold leafed, and the King of Spain sent it over, Philip II, I believe it was, for the first gold of the New World was sent to Rome for the ceiling of St. Mary Major. So it's one of my favorite churches in Rome. It's a magnificent church, and those are the highlights of that. Yes.
Yeah, and right around the corner from St. Mary Major is the church that has the pillar that our Lord was scourged on. I don't remember the name of that church.
Yes.
I know it's just I associate it with
know.
St. Mary Major.
I can't remember the name of that church.
So we mentioned Santa Croce in Jerusalem. That's one of the 3 minor basilicas. We also have St. Lawrence outside the walls and San Sebastiano. So those are also minor basilicas. One, obviously, San Sebastiano is by the catacombs.
Yes.
And what are the catacombs, Your Excellency?
Catacombs are the places where the early Catholics buried the dead, so you can see there. You go down into it. I did not visit the Saint Sebastian ones, but I did visit the Saint Callistus ones, which are not far away. And so you see these big cutouts in the wall, and the places where people were buried. They also took refuge there during persecutions, because there were on and off persecutions in Rome, depending on the emperor and
day of the week.
Yeah, on and off. So when things got hot, they went down there. The problem is you could easily get lost, and they actually had symbols on the walls so that you could, the experts could tell where they were, because it was perfectly dark, and you might have a torch or something, but it all looks the same. I mean, it's a little bit scary even when you're there. It's all lit up now, with electric, but still, you could see getting lost in there. You don't want you have to be careful.
Right.
So it's worth visiting, definitely, the catacombs. I think Callistus is reputed to be the better one. So if you have to make a choice,
and it's not far, as you say, it's not far away. There's a bus every 20 minutes or so during the regular day that goes down there so people can
If it doesn't pass you up because it's too crowded,
that happens
that
too.
happens. Yes.
Particularly in August,
And
you
you're
might have a
walking
chance to
along the
get on.
Appian Way there too, the old Appian Way, which is very historical. And no, it's everything that you see in Rome has history, loaded with history. Every single rock is loaded with history, so yeah, it's worth going there to see those. Yes.
So I said St. Lawrence outside the walls, but St. Paul's outside the walls, Your Excellency. I don't think people realize this is actually the newest of the basilicas. It looks, when you go in there, it looks brand new, like it was built yesterday, because in many senses, it was just built yesterday. It wasn't that long ago.
Yes, it was built. Well, the old St. Paul's was built by Constantine the Emperor, and just as he built the old St. Peter's. The old St. Peter's started to fall apart in the Renaissance, the time around, say, 1500 or so, or before that even. And the Pope said, we better do something about this. So the present St. Peter's was devised, which is absolutely magnificent church. But the other was continue. They were both pretty much the same in size and shape and everything. So it burned down in 1822, I think. I think that's the date, and they wouldn't tell the ailing Pius VII what happened because the thing was a wreck. And I always wonder how stone buildings burn down, but I can never figure that out. But they do. So
Well, the whole thing was, I don't think the whole thing was stone, Your Excellency. I think it's always the roofs, and then when that gives
yes,
way, then other things
yes, I
fall.
guess fall down. Yeah, I guess so. But it was a wreck. And so they didn't tell him. They let him die, thinking at St. Paul's that would have made him die right away, probably. So there was a whole idea of rebuilding St. Paul's, and it was finished under Pius IX. So he reigned until 1878. So and everyone said that the new basilica was nicer than the old basilica. They reproduced it absolutely the same, and it is. You can tell what the old St. Peter's seemed to be by looking at this. In other words, they were practically the same building. So the old St. Peter's, a double colonnade on each side of the enormous church, and you can see in their museum there the marker of the tomb of St. Paul. In other words, with his name on it. Yes, and it's St. Paul outside the walls because he was beheaded outside the walls of Rome because he was a Roman citizen and he could not be beheaded inside Rome.
Okay.
So that's a bit of a trip out there.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. And I think that's part of the attraction of going with a group is not only you're with a priest who can decode some of these things for you as you have, but also to be organized enough to get around to all of these places is quite a lot of work. Favorite churches, Your Excellency? I know that there's so many in here. I think maybe I can help get the ball rolling by sharing a couple of mine. San Clemente, because of the oldness of it and that unbelievably beautiful mosaic. The Gesù, because of my love for the Jesuits, and San Ignazio, and Santi Apostoli as well, which is not far from that
tomb of Saints
Philip and James.
Philip
I think.
and James are in Santa Apostoli.
Yeah, it's near that horrible Victor Emmanuel Masonic monument.
Yes,
Santi
nobody
Apostoli.
visits. I don't think.
But those are
They
just
call that the wedding cake.
the wedding cake
or the typewriter.
Typewriter.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, the Romans don't like it.
No, they don't.
It's made out of this totally alien marble that stands out from the skyline. But
Yes.
those are two or three.
Yes. Well, no,
monuments.
the Gesù, that was the standard of Baroque architecture. It was finished in the late 1500s, and that was the standard. And then Roman Baroque, all of the others were done in the same kind of style. That whole area is, you have the Church of St. Philip Neri, the Chiesa Nuova, which means the new church.
The new.
But that means it was because his old church was on another street. And so that is, and you can see his apartments, and he's buried in there too, St. Philip Neri. There's relics, there's bodies all over Rome. I mean, and that whole area is loaded with magnificent churches. Sant'Andrea della Valle, That was the first church I went into when I was in Rome. I thought, oh, I'll go around and look at some churches. I practically died. This is like a cathedral. This is just a church on the street.
Right.
The dome, everything, gold everywhere. And it's just an introduction to Rome. And it is a very impressive church. It's on the
Yeah,
main road.
I'm walking down the street with you as you say that. I'm thinking, okay, well, we can turn right. Obviously, there's the Piazza Navona has Saint Agnes there.
Oh yes, that's
That the dome,
yes.
the dome of that church.
Yes,
And
that was the Circus of Domitian. I don't know if you know that. And a circus means a racetrack. And if you go to the northern section of that, you can see where they kept the horses to this day. There's stables. There's the remnants of the stables. Yes. And across the street from that is Santa Polinare, which is another beautiful one, and Sant'Agostino, which has Saint Monica in it. That's right in that vicinity north of that. See, I know.
keep going.
Yes, and also they brought some of the relics, I think, of Saint Augustine to
We're
that
turning left and right in these small streets.
yes,
As you're talking about that.
Yes.
Maybe coming towards, you have a trip to Rome coming up not too long, and in the area of Gamarelli we have Santa Maria sopra Minerva.
Yes. Oh, another beautiful church. Yes, that was where Saint Catherine of Siena is in there, and the tomb of Paul IV is in there, and also Fra Angelico is in there. And it's one of the few Gothic churches, but it's Roman Gothic, and it doesn't, it's very decorated for Gothic, but it does have, Gothic arches in it. And an interesting thing, that's the headquarters of the Dominicans in Rome. It's certainly an important place for the Dominicans. Galileo was kept there. So he was not thrown into prison. He had a very comfortable life. Yes, he was on house arrest, but a comfortable life in the house of the Dominicans.
You make your bed, you sleep in it, Your Excellency. If you want to contradict Scripture and say that your science is superior,
right.
And I think Santa Maria sopra Minerva has just been restored.
Oh, really?
Just the
Yes.
restoration was finished, so I think you'll
very
get to
nice.
see that. A few steps away, you have the Pantheon, which is a converted church.
Yes.
But an architectural
Also converted. Well, it was a pagan
pagan temple made into a church.
yes.
But architecturally magnificent in and of itself.
Yes. The Roman dome. And if you look up, you see a big hole in the top because the Romans could not figure out how to close that without in some
Collapsing
way
everything.
collapsing the dome. But the Italians figured it out in the Renaissance. Brunelleschi figured it out in Rome, in Florence, and Saint Michelangelo copied it for the Dome of St. Peter's, how to do that. It's actually two domes. There's an interior dome that holds up the nice one on the outside. And then the lantern at the top sort of locks the whole thing in place.
It's just magnificent that was built from a model, Your Excellency. He had the concept of it in the model, and then they just had to do it life size.
Yes.
Extraordinary.
Well, the one in Florence is pretty big too.
That's true. I'm looking here, Castel Gandolfo. Sorry, not Castel Gandolfo, Castel Sant'Angelo. And obviously there as a famous fortress, protected the Pope on more than one occasion. And you have that on the Vatican side.
Clement VII had to live there for a long time. He was the one that refused the annulment to Henry VIII. He was a Medici, and he had to live up on the top floor for quite a while because that was the time of the siege of Rome by the Protestants that Charles V sent down because he couldn't pay them. So he said, go to Rome and sack Rome. I know, he was a Catholic too. Yeah, thank you very much.
Well, there are so many more churches that we could talk about, and part of the trip will include going to churches every day. But there's also a couple side trips, Your Excellency. One of them will be to Assisi, which you've been to, which not only features this magnificent basilica, but is this medieval town really that's still preserved.
Yes, it's poised on a hill. A very you have to go up a lot. It's windy roads going up to this, and you see a beautiful scene of central Italy. Magnificent. Yeah, it's very nice.
It's unfortunate for us as traditional Catholics, Your Excellency, we associate Assisi with the horrible sacrilege.
Yes.
But I
It's
suppose
in
that's
the Church of St. Clair that horrid sacrilege took place.
an opportunity for any Catholics who are visiting to say some rosaries or say some prayers in reparation when they visit.
Mm-hmm.
On this pilgrimage, they'll also be going to Subiaco, home of, say, the home of Saint Benedict, the original abbey, and then Genezzano, where the miraculous icon of Our Lady, our Mother of Good Counsel, is housed.
Mm-hmm.
So not very far from Rome, Your Excellency. I know people would say, well, when is His Excellency going to lead a tour? I'm going to sign up. You're, I would say, semi-retired. I'm trying to talk you out of retirement.
Semi-retired. I'm not
Semi-retired from leading trips, Your Excellency.
Well, yes, but I don't.
Trying to talk you out of that potentially for the future.
I couldn't keep up. I'm 75 years old. You have to walk around Rome. I mean, when you come back, you can't go in a car any place. All right.
Right.
So you walk and walk and walk.
Mhm.
I mean, when you come back to your hotel,
You're done. For the
you're
day.
ready for extramunction. I mean, I couldn't keep up with some of these young people. They would, no, I just can't do it.
Okay, maybe not Rome, Your Excellency. Maybe a place so we don't have to. I'm not going to name any names because I still hold out hope that you might be able to.
Well,
go
you would
on
have
these.
to be the leader of the pack. I could just comment on.
Yeah, I'm fine with taking care of hot water,
Yes.
requests and
Yes,
requests
I don't
for
like the food
types of
yes.
sandwiches, etc. Well, Your Excellency, I suppose I'd end with it's not inexpensive to go to Italy. It's not inexpensive to fly, wherever a Catholic might be in the world.
I don't know what you think is inexpensive, but right now the airfares are absolutely horrible.
Right. So going there, I think part of the question will be what will a Catholic gain by going? One of the superficial things I talk about all the time is that all of those stational churches that are referred to in your missal, you'll have gone into them and you'll say,
Yes.
oh, the station is at Santa Maria in Traspatina. If you've been in that church, then you'll be able to make that connection. That's wonderful. But what does a Catholic gain? What have you gained from all of your visits to Rome over the years?
I call it the big attraction to Rome is that it is the capital of the Catholic Church. And when you're there, you understand that completely. The Catholic Church is everywhere in Rome. And all of the things to see are the Catholic churches. I mean, yes, if you want to run through the forum and there's all these columns floating,
Leaf flowers for Caesar.
yeah, I mean, that's a sideshow. That it'd be something like Athens, there's the Acropolis and some remnants of Greece and all. But all of the attraction of Rome is the Roman Catholic Church, and you see the church in its proper state. I mean, so many people don't know what the church was like before Vatican II got a hold of it, but you see it in the stone and you see it in the gold and everything. That it's these places are meant for the traditional mass and the traditional faith. That is the most impressive part of Rome, I think, and the faith that built all of that. That contributed all the art and it just you just think, how could this happen? I mean, it was an enormous expense to build those things and the art and the sculptures, just everywhere because of the faith. It's so impressive.
All the relics that are there, as you noted, that are in the guide, then obviously visiting the bodies of St. Pius V, St. Pius X,
Yes,
and
Yes,
praying
yes.
there.
yes, and there's a lot of tombs of popes in Rome too, in various places. As St. Lawrence outside the walls has Pius IX, Saint Stephen, and Saint Lawrence. That's a pretty good, the tombs of those
It's
great
not bad.
saints.
And
Yeah.
what's wonderful about St. Lorenzo is it's never crowded. There's not a lot of
Mhm.
people who make it out that way.
No, it's true.
And so
It's true.
my middle name is Lawrence, so I have, it's one of my
Mhm.
patron saints, but it's a small, beautiful church. And as you say, there's some great saints.
It took damage in the war,
Hmm.
Yes, and I think by American bombing. But they fixed it up afterwards.
Not as bad as Monte Cassino, for example.
No, not as bad as Monte Cassino. No.
All right, Your Excellency. Well, I'm sure there are people in the comment section who will try to encourage you to take a trip, maybe not to Rome with as much walking, but maybe a trip in the future. We will drag you out of semi-retirement from leading, not necessarily leading the group, but accompanying the group,
Right.
and sharing all your wisdom and knowledge of the history and the context of everything they're going to have a chance to see. So thank you for taking the time to share with us some of your reminiscences of Rome.
Thank you.